Hey guys, it's Alex Burtson, the Manic Scholar, back again with another video. This video is one of my spiritual videos. I won't be talking about Michael teachings, Vedic astrology, or human design too much in this. But what I want to talk about today is spiritual awakening and enlightenment. Like what enlightenment is, what it's like when you wake up, and what happens afterwards. So I made another video about my personal experiences with uh, different spiritual experiences I've had uh, during my manias, during my manic episodes. So you can go check out that video if you want to learn more about what happened with me in particular. But I'm just going to talk more generally about enlightenment in this video. So enlightenment is a really important aspect of life, um, because in cases it it's like it takes up your whole life. It can transform your whole life, to go to a higher level of consciousness and be living from that state. Um, so what happens is basically there's a shift from misidentification of self with the true self. So before enlightenment, what's basically being seen and experienced is a lot of separation. Um, the world is seen through lens of separateness, and everything is separate from yourself, and the yourself is considered there's a identification with the body, as the self and the mind, as separate from everybody else, possibly better than everybody else or worse, or going up and down in this kind of thing. um, there's a lot of mental suffering and anguish involved in a unenlightened state, um, and lots of thoughts, and it seems like it's impossible to quiet down and be at the state of peace. But what happens when you wake up is that the mind does find peace, because you're no longer fighting with all these thoughts constantly about yourself and your life and your circumstances and your whole story, your whole life story. So the thing is that we've created a fiction of ourselves that we believe is us based on past experiences we've had, um, and we've created this story in our heads about who we are, and in that story is so much suffering. Um, and what actually happens when you wake up is there's the identification with the body goes away. Um, there's actually like a kind of like a grip, like in the body. There's a tension always before waking up, because uh, the self needs to like grasp onto something, which is this body, as a form of knowing itself. It's this body as opposed to everything else. But the thing is, with when in the enlightened state, what's seen is there's nothing else out there. There's not even me. This everything that exists is the true self. Everything. And it doesn't exist inside a concept. It doesn't exist inside a thought. It doesn't exist inside of a projection over our experience onto some kind of perceived object. What's seen is, instead of that, is it's just like when you go to the movies and there's a projector projecting images onto a screen. The screen is blank and white. It's just a blank canvas that everything else can play upon. So what happens is you wake up and see, oh, I see the fucking blank canvas. I can see the screen. The screen is everywhere. It is everything. Everywhere you look, you just see the screen, and it's just this state of open perception, and there's no thoughts going on to the objects anymore. You can look in your room and see a book, and that is the self. You look outside, that's the self. You close your eyes, that's the self. Everything everywhere is the self, and it doesn't take any concept to see it. And any concept that does come up is immediately seen through because you know that it's the self. Actually exists is this openness, this space in which everything that exists can exist, and that's actually what we are. That's the truth of our being and who we really are. But if you don't realize that and you think you're this body and this mind and that you're separate from everything else, you're just stuck in this story of that you've created in your mind. That's just a projection. It's just like an abstraction of the actual reality, and the reality is just this open piece at being. It's silence. It's the silence that allows all sound to exist. It's a space in which all physical objects can exist. It's the backdrop of everything that exists. So seeing that, you can live in this state where you're just at peace. You can what when you wake up, what happens is that grip that was holding onto the body opens up and you let go. And so you're just resting in just pure being. It doesn't even feel like you are the body. It feels like more like you're the space in which the body sits. So you are the space, and you go in every direction forever. You know, like there's no limit to me because I'm everything. So everything, like you can just tune in around yourself and stretch out and just be that whole space. It's so freeing because you're not stuck in this thing anymore. You're not moving this thing around. You're just you're just the witness of everything just naturally arising. And that's also a really crazy aspect of it too, is that it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. Everything just naturally arises on its own. Your thoughts will appear when they're needed. Your actions will appear when they're needed. All you can really do and all you need to do is be as aware of your internal process as you can and accept and allow it and embrace it and feel it all as much as you can. Um, which can be very difficult to do because there can be things that appear in you that you might not naturally want to go in and feel or and accept and feel inside yourself. But that's just the natural process of this whole thing is being able to go deeper into yourself and kind of process and feel and really experience what's inside you. Um, but the more awareness and an acceptance of whatever appears that that you have, then the more possibilities there are for you because you're not living unconsciously and you're living with clarity, so you're able to make better decisions. But yeah, the cool thing about it is it doesn't even feel like you're doing any of it. It's just like it's just like you're being and then everything just comes up. And I remember for me before I had my own awakening experiences, I just felt like there was so much effort in doing everything. It felt like physical effort. And now it's just like it doesn't even feel like I have control over exactly when my body's going to go and do certain things. It just does certain things at certain times. Um, and there's no controlling it. It's really interesting, you know. So I think that there's a certain state you can get to where you're at peace and you're feeling everything inside yourself and you're in the state of acceptance and flow. Um, but there's so much more that you can keep on working on. Um, it feels like, in my experience, once I've had my to the certain level of awakening that I've had, it's harder to go to deeper levels, because I'm just naturally in this open, rested state, as I go throughout my whole life. Um, but there's stuff inside of us, deep energies and uh, possible emotions and experiences encoded inside of us that probably extend so far back in our history. Just think about any emotional or memory traumas from the past. It's probably stored inside of us, and we're all connected to it, and we'll all have to feel it. There's a shadow there that's in our experience, no matter how awake we are. There's always more shadow. But the way to deal with it is to be aware of it as much as you can and to accept it in and feel it and embrace it. Fighting anything is a lower level of consciousness phenomenon, because fighting with anything is supposing that there's something else to fight with. But the thing is that there is nothing else to fight with, because it's just the self everywhere. So if everything is the self, every emotion, every thought, every person, every physical thing, every feeling, if it's all yourself, even all the shadows too, every shadow, it's all the self. So all you can really do is try to accept it and embrace it and feel it and pull it into yourself and allow it, and just be the open space that you are, and allow life to flow through you, and be that surrendered to the being of life. So I mean, that's a quest that can go on for our whole existence, which is endless. It's not just this life. Consciousness, it exists forever and has always existed, and we're going to go through so many different experiences through our reincarnational cycle. But also, once we're done reincarnating and we're on the higher planes, there's so much for us to experience. I wouldn't say that being in a state of enlightenment is necessary, like absolutely necessary for you to complete what's needed in our reincarnational cycle. There's different lessons we're learning as being individual beings that are more detailed, and there's so many facets to it besides just enlightenment. I disagree with the viewpoint that life is just about enlightenment, and that once you're enlightened, everything's done, your karma's gone, and you never have to reincarnate again. You're done with your whole cycle, your whole existence, your whole purpose is over. That just doesn't make sense to me. We go on forever, and it never stops, and there's always more ways to grow. There's more shadows to churn into gifts and to cities, to spiritual powers, higher levels of consciousness. So it goes on forever. But people are just, some people are, more and more people are waking up now and starting to see from this higher level of consciousness where everything is the self, and they're able to face life and deal with hard energies and situations, and bring more awareness and love to life. Um, so it's definitely a a better way to go. It's not as painful. If to be at lower levels of consciousness is more painful, but a lot of people don't wake up to this higher level of consciousness because they haven't had to deal with something so catastrophic that they were forced to wake up. You know, that's when it happens. When like if you feel like, what's the point of like paying attention to every thought I have every moment, and be as aware of that as possible? I don't see the point of that. It's because there's pain in the whole thought process. It's a painful experience. You don't want to experience it. I mean, it could be different for every person. You know, I don't. It's hard to gauge what level of emotional pain and anguish that somebody is in, how much suffering someone's experiencing. But suffering is actually the catalyst to waking up. It's what the suffering pushes us into higher levels of consciousness. So that's what's useful about it. We make mistakes, or we're not seeing things at a higher level, and so we're forced to wake up and see things from a higher level when that level doesn't work anymore. So it's not, enlightenment isn't. It shouldn't be forced on everybody. It's a very personal thing. It's like it's something that you have to basically, for it to really happen for you. Like you have to want it more than anything else, because everything else is the self. It's not something else, you know. Um it's really weird. It's really weird to see it that way, but everything that you're striving for is the self. And the self is here now as everything. And it's not things that you hold on to that's going to save you and make you happy. It's waking up to being the witness of life and allowing, accepting, and embracing everything that appears in your experience, um, and living in this flow and openness with love. And I think that's the goal in terms of how to approach everything. Um, with more love, it's a better experience, and you're able to love if you're able to accept everything. And that's what consciousness does. Consciousness is the space that allows everything to exist. And when we align ourselves to that, realizing that we are that consciousness in that space, then we're free from all the struggle and all the stories and all the energies that happen inside of a life. And we can see outside of the life, through the life, and just see that there's this openness forever and that we're really free. Um, so So yeah, I mean, I'll talk some more about this. I think this is pretty good enough for this video because it's almost 20 minutes. But I'll talk more about this and different aspects of all this, and also talk about maybe how it relates to the different systems that I teach about, like Michael Teachings, Vedic astrology, and human design. But that's kind of my thoughts on spiritual awakening and enlightenment. Um, it goes on forever, but there's definitely a stage you can get to where you're at peace and you're free from a whole bunch of suffering that you would otherwise have to deal with. Um, so yeah, that's it, guys. Um, if you like this content, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Manic Scholar out.